Been a long couple of days, hasn't it? So, you're the survivors. Well done. This is a really cool event. This is a really cool event. Well, I've been learning a bit about CAS and the fact that the whole thing's community-led, and it started 10 years ago with a couple of hundred people or something, and then there were, I think, 1,100 of you here over the last 2 days, which is pretty cool. And this is your 10th anniversary, your 10th birthday. I thought, how do you celebrate a 10th birthday in Barcelona? So I made you something. So, happy birthday, Kaz. I hope all of you are going to celebrate this. I have a 1-hour talk that I'm trying to squeeze into 45 minutes. So I added some more stuff because that seems to make sense. This is a weird talk. Hello, I'm Daniel. I've been in technology for about 30 years. I've been in the agile space for about 20 years, sort of before it was called agile, kind of late 90s. And I've been causing mischief as a programmer, as a coach, as a organizational kind of troublemaker, as a, process and those kind of things, methodology. And most recently, I've been having a rather unusual adventure, which I'm still having, in India. So I was here yesterday and today, and in order to be here, I flew back from Mumbai on Wednesday night, landed on Thursday morning in London, unpacked clothes, packed clothes, came here. So I've been in 3 time zones in 24 hours. And I want to tell you a bit about what's going on. So 2 years ago, come on, clicky thing. My clicky thing isn't clicking. You've got one job, clicky thing. Wow. Okay, my clicky thing just crashed everything. Brilliant. Right, let's try that again. Okay, I'll mostly be pressing buttons. So, 2 years ago, I came up with an acronym, okay? And the acronym is SWARM, Scaling Without a Religious Methodology. So it was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek kind of, it started on Twitter actually, as you had less and safe and dad and all of these agile methods, or scaling agile methods, and they all just seem a little bit, I don't know, I'll say it to you because you're all my friends, a little bit bogus. I'm not convinced, okay? Not only am I not convinced, I can prove from first principles that none of them work. That's awkward. Okay, and so I thought, well, I need my own acronym. Right, so I came up with swarming, scaling without a religious methodology, and then I gave it a lowercase a, because you have to have a lowercase vowel, otherwise it's not a proper methodology. Okay? So what I was talking about, so I'm going to try and get that talk in the beginning of this talk and then give this talk. Basically, what I was talking about with swarming is this, is you need to find your way. There isn't a set of rules you can follow. What I said is there's a bunch of what I call table stakes, so core things that you really need to be true in order for this to work. And then once you've got those table stakes, there's then a fairly simple iterative process to get you there. And so, I don't know why I'm carrying this around, it doesn't do anything. And so these were some of the table stakes I was talking about. So I said things like, you need to have, the first thing you need is time. This stuff doesn't happen magically overnight. You can't just write, on Monday we're going agile. I've actually seen someone stand on a chair in front of their entire division of several hundred engineers and say, on Monday we're going agile. Guess how that ended? Didn't end well. We need practice. We need to try this stuff. We need to go over it again and again. Time and practice requires investment. So your senior leaders, the people with the money, need to decide that they are going to spend some time doing this. They need to invest in this. This needs to be a choice. And the way I describe this is if this is going to work, this needs to be how you do work, not something you do alongside of work. Okay, so if you want to change the way your organization works and change the way you do work, that has to be part of your day-to-day practice, not a program that runs, oh, we've got this transformation program running alongside delivery. As soon as you have a transformation program, you already failed. Okay, so don't do that. You need education, okay? You need new tricks. You need communications, you need people to know what's going on. And I talk quite a lot about leadership, so I could spend an entire 45 minutes talking about leadership. The three things that I pointed out in the swarming kind of piece was this. The first thing is it needs to be consistent. In a reasonable size organization, a few thousand people, you are talking a minimum 3 to 5 year play, okay? So if you change, there's a wonderful statistic I came across a few years ago, which is probably already out of date. The half-life of a CIO. So the half-life of a CIO is this. Say you've got a room with 50 CIOs in it. After how long will half of those CIOs have changed job? Have a guess. 2 years? A year? Wow. Well, it turns out, I love you lot. You come to Barcelona like, we don't give a crap, we know, right? It's about 18 months. It turns out the half-life of a CIO is about 18 months. In other words, after 18 months, about half of those CIOs are all in new jobs. What actually happens is they all move around one. They all just take each other's jobs, and they go, right, okay, you go there. Right, that bank to this bank, and then have you been there? Okay, I'll go over here. It's like elaborate chess game of CIOs. But what's going to happen is they come in and then they want to make their mark, and they make their mark by killing whatever transformation's going on or introducing SAFe or something, and then you're back where you started. So it needs to be invested. These people need to care, and it needs to be resilient. And all I'll say about resilience is I mean resilience in the sense of turn the ship around. So David Marquet, Commander David Marquet, ex-US nuclear submarine commander, brilliant book, Turn the Ship Around, where he talks about creating what he calls leader-leader organizations. So rather than having follow a leader, so you have this person at the top and everyone follows them, leader-leader is that at every level in the organization, you have people who are accountable, who take accountability, who own the thing that they do. And they will defend that. They'll say, look, I know this area, right? Trust me, this is okay. And then they'll talk to their management or whatever, and they say, right, this is what I intend to do. It's called intentional leadership or intent-based leadership. I intend to do this. And it's, I'm not asking your permission, I'm telling you what I intend to do. If what I intend to do sounds stupid or dangerous or something, tell me, because I probably ought to know that. But other than that, I've got this. And that's what I mean by resilient leadership. And what I've seen in organizations is that the CIOs do move around. The new CIO comes in and says, I'm going to do all this, I'm going to make all these changes. And their team, the people that report to them, say, no, you're not. We're right in the middle of this thing, and it's going really well, and we want to tell you about it, and we want you to support us. And I've seen that conversation, and it was wonderful. Right? So if you can create that resilience, that's really powerful. So I was talking about things like this, and I said, the whole process, right, and this is why you don't need a 2-day certification class followed by a anyway, is something like this. So the process is this, visualize. You cannot change what you cannot see, okay? So visualize is things like value stream mapping, is things like Gemba Gembutsu, going and walking the floor. Taiki Ono used to say, you don't look with your eyes, you look with your feet. You look with your feet, you walk around, right? You don't trust people coming into your office and telling you stuff, you go and see, okay? Visualize, find out what's going on. Once you can see what's going on, the chances are what's going on is quite chaotic, and you go into fix mode. We're a bunch of technologists, we're going to solve mode, we love solving things. So we don't want to do that. Instead, what we want to do is stabilize. We want things to be reasonably stable, reasonably uniform before we start twiddling the dials. And the reason we want things to be reasonably uniform first is that if it's really chaotic, if there's high variance, if everything's going a bit crazy, and you turn the dials, you've got no idea whether you're helping. Okay? So visualize, stabilize, and the way I describe this is this. Even if you are eye-wateringly bad, you're consistently eye-wateringly bad. Right? And being consistently very bad is a good baseline. because then you can start to improve. Okay? And then you optimize. Now we get to twiddle with the things, and then we go around, and then we do it again. So now we've optimized, and we see a new change, and then we visualize again, we measure again, and then we stabilize again, and we optimize again. We go into little cycles of that. You start small. You don't go agile on Monday, okay? Start small, get data, tell stories, and you learn from mistakes. You're going to mess this up. If you're not messing this up, you're not trying hard enough, okay? And so this was some of the things I was talking about. And then about 18 months ago, I got a call, got an email. So I'm very lucky. Most of my work is inbound. People contact me and they say, can you help me? And my default answer to can you help me is maybe. Right? Let's chat. I don't know. We haven't met. And so this company contacted me. They're called Jio. They're in India, headquartered in Mumbai, but they're in various places around India. Put your hands up if you've heard of Jio. Right. No hands. No hands. I asked in London a few weeks ago, who's heard of Jio? 2 hands. Right? No one's heard. I hadn't heard of them. And this chap on the right, Mukesh Ambani. Who's heard of Mukesh Ambani? Right. Let the record show there's some embarrassed laughter. So, I don't know. And I'm the same. Right? I didn't know who this gentleman was. I didn't know who these people were. And they said, look, we're a telco. We're a telco in India. We'd like you to come and meet us. We've seen some of your stuff online, and we think you might be able to help us. So I said, okay then. India, that's quite a long way. So I thought, right. So I said to them, look, my schedule, the way my schedule's working out at the moment, I could come next week, which is clearly ridiculous, or in about 6 weeks. So should we schedule something in 6 weeks? And they said, when next week? I was like, what? so then they booked me a flight, and I went and got my injections and whatever for India, and suddenly, the following week, I'm in Mumbai. Okay, and I meet these folks. So let me just tell you a little bit about these people. So a little bit about Jio. So Jio is, it's a startup. It's they've built a 4G network across the whole of India from scratch. So from nothing. India's quite a big place. It has quite a lot of people. It has 1 billion and a bit people. The and a bit people is the population of America. Okay? This is the thing. When you get to India, you don't understand the scale of India. 1/7 of the world's population is Indian. Most of them are in India. It's a busy place. Okay? So this company builds a 4G network from scratch, which is completely insane. Okay, and so what did they do? Oh, so the other part of this is they built a 4G network, and the idea was they said there were already incumbent networks, and they said we're going to start with just a pure digital network. At the point when they decided to build this network across the whole of India, you couldn't get voice on 4G. That wasn't solved yet. And there were also competing standards. There was 4G and LTE and some other ones. They're all converged now. So the bet was, by the time we build out masts across the whole of India for tens of billions of dollars of investment in physical infrastructure, by the time we've done that, someone's going to have solved that. And if they haven't, oops. Right? This is a big bet. So they did that. They launched about 3 years ago, 3 and a bit years ago. They currently have 360 million customers. That's wrong. They've now got about 370 million customers. It's going up about 10 million customers a month. At their peak onboarding, which was sometime last year, they were onboarding 1 million new customers. This is what they call order to activation. So I would like a phone to your phone is live. They were doing 1 million of those a day. I can't even imagine the processing involved in that, let alone the physicality. They have 2 million billing transactions a second. These are old numbers. There's more than this now. But a while ago, 2 million billing transactions. This is things like top-ups, changing, paying for things, renewals, that kind of stuff. So 2 million transactions that are money transactions every second. This is my favorite one. So there's a thing called a CDR, which is basically like a network event. So it's on the physical network, your phone moving between masts, or you're connecting a call or terminating a call or whatever. 10 billion of those a day hitting their systems, okay? And they have 6,000 people. They are a 6,000 person startup. They have all of the chaos and crazy and whatever else of a startup. They have all of the growing pains and organizational stuff of a 6,000 person company. And yet, all of that is true. And yet they have built a platform that is stable enough, robust enough to support 360 million concurrent active phone users, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Ambani. If you Google him, this is the stuff you'll find. I didn't know any of this, right? I went out there and I met this guy, I met this guy's company, and then I met him. And I Googled him just before I went in to meet him. Bad idea. Because what I learned was this. He owns Reliance Industries. Reliance Industries is the highest valued business in India. Okay? Refinery to retail. He owns an oil refinery. Right? He's got his own hydrocarbons business. But right the way across to things like retail, it's India's most valuable. It's actually not a company, it's a group of companies. He's the wealthiest man in Asia. He's the 13th wealthiest man in the world. Didn't know that. Now, I'm not actually that wowed by wealth. I've worked with some very wealthy people in my career, just by accident. I happen to work in companies that are run by quite wealthy people. Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about this chap in a minute. So he has this AGM that he does every year, and he speaks at his AGM for the Reliance Group, and it's on the internet. You can go and look at this. He says, I believe India's economy will be worth $10 trillion in the next decade. And, and I'm going to have a slice of that. Okay? So this is what you'll find if you Google him. This is what I've found working with him. He is a voracious learner. Okay? He loves learning. So what he'll do, he has a model when he goes into a new space. He has a model which is called Scan, Focus, Act. So scan is, I'm going into telecoms, I'm going into 4G. I don't know anything about 4G. I'm going to go and learn the heck out of 4G. I'm going to go and learn the heck out of mobile. And he does, and he learns and learns and learns and learns and learns. And it's kind of scattergun. He's like trying to find out how this space works. And then within that, he says, right, here's what I'm going to do. I think we should build a 4G network with no analog legacy stuff. Just build a 4G network. And how would we do that? What are some ways we could do that, like parallel experiments? And then ACT is make it so. Okay? So he's a voracious learner. He appreciates speaking truth to power. So when I say to him, I think that's a bad idea, he'd rather hear that than me say, yes, that's a great idea. Okay, he's very straight talking like that. Here's what's different. As I said, I've worked with some ultra-wealthy people. They tend to have a glint in their eye. They're looking at the next deal and the next deal. And Mukesh Ambani doesn't have that, right? He sees his enormous wealth as this massive social obligation, social imperative to raise up India, to raise up Indians. This is the kind of language he uses. It's amazing. And he's like, if we happen to make some money out of that, fantastic, right? But what I want to do is build up India. He's principled, right? He has very strong principles. He's very genuine. I don't have to say this, right? I'm not being paid to say this. As an independent, I get to choose who I work with, right? And I'm choosing to do this because he's a really, inspiring guy to be around. He is obsessed about his customers. Everything we're doing, he's saying, but how does this help my customers? How will the thing you're about to do impact my customers in a positive way? And he'll hold me to account. I'm pretty customer obsessed, right? And in fact, on Wednesday, I had a meeting with him on Wednesday in Mumbai, and he said, Dan, I can see all these things you've been doing over the last few months. Show me how they directly impact my customers. And I was like, oh, that's really annoying, because he's right. I thought I was good at this. No. What else? So what he's doing is he's applying all this innovation to, he doesn't see Jio, the company, as a 4G phone network. He sees it as a connectivity solution, if you like, for India. And so what he's doing is he's applying this tech innovation to connectivity, finance, education. There's a thing in India called hyper-local retail. So this is a very Indian thing. What you have in the cities is this kind of template of buildings where you have a building and the ground floor is like retail, is shops, and then the upper levels are dwellings, so people live in them. But like when you go food shopping, you come downstairs and you go to the food shop downstairs. And the people in the next block, they come downstairs and they do their food shopping here. Right? That's called hyperlocal retail. Amazon doesn't know what to do with that. Doesn't fit the model. Right? It's a very Indian problem, and he's got a very Indian approach to dealing with that, and it's really exciting. So he's looking at that. So what he's doing, and what I'm helping with, is transitioning Geo then into a connectivity platform that sits under these things, which is really exciting. So anyway, so he said, come out, take a look around. So I took a look around, and I interviewed a cross-section of people. And what I do a thing called an initial assessment, TM. It's not really TM, right? But essentially, this is one of the things. I'm not selling. I'm busy right now. But one of the things I do is I come in and I meet a bunch of people. And I interview them over a number of days, and then I play back what I've learned. And in this case, I played back what I learned in terms of people and how the organization works and that kind of thing, process, how work gets done, technology, and also we had a conversation about product and product management and product thinking as well. And what I basically said is this: Geo from the outside looks like this amazing, story of this swan gliding along, and then you get inside Geo, and it looks a bit like this. And the feet are going like this, and the swan's gliding, and the feet are going like this. And so their former CTO, a wonderful, wonderful German chap called Dr. Stefano, so he described it. He said, you're very effective, but you're not very efficient, right? As you can imagine, if you've gone from 0 to, well, when I met them, 5,000 people, now 6,000 people, in like a handful of years, you do that by kind of aggressively acquiring, growing, slamming groups together and this kind of stuff. We want to, solve call centers, contact centers. Let's go and get some contact centers and just grab them and munge them all together. So there's lots and lots and lots of groups of people who've all been thrown together in a very short period of time, which is effective. You got from this guy thinks in OKRs, right? So one of his big bets early on, he said, I want to get 100 million customers in 100 days, right? And they went for that, and it took them 170 days to get 100 million customers, okay? Which is still just under 6 months, which is still impossible, all right? And this isn't, people doing free sign-ups on WhatsApp. This is genuine paying, billing customers on a 4G network, right? Slightly more complicated proposition. Effective but not efficient. And so I went in and he said, I've got these 2 questions. You could really help me out by helping me understand 2 questions. The first is, how efficient are we? And the second is, how do we become more efficient? I have a feeling my 5,000 people were really, really good at doing stuff, but it feels like we're not very efficient. How could we do that? So how efficient are we? I said, it's impossible to know. You cannot know because you're not measuring anything that we could reasonably use. You're measuring busyness. You're measuring activity. You're not measuring throughput, flow, results, anything like that. Okay, you're not measuring effectiveness of effectiveness of an organization. How to become more efficient? I said, I've got this. Right? Well, it's not me, it's someone else, right? Theory of constraints, Ellie Goldratt. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to define what we mean by efficient. And I talked about like lead time from idea to impact, or concept to cash. Right? How quickly can we take an idea and operationalize it and get it in front of customers? If we identify a customer need, how quickly can we meet that need? Okay, that's what we mean by efficiency. How much does it cost us to get there? Right, what is our operating cost of meeting those needs? Once we've got a working definition of efficient, then we're going to identify what's slowing us down. And in a big, complicated organization, it's hard to know. So we're going to guess, right? Identify what we think is slowing us down, and we're going to build experiments around that. Is that really slowing us down? We don't know. And then what we're going to do is mobilize around these constraints, around these bottlenecks, and say, we think this will work. I'd like you to go and take a look at that bottleneck. I'd like you to go and take a look at that thing. I'd like you, and then all these people are going to go off and look at these different areas, and they're going to report back. They're going to say, do you know what? Actually, that really was a bottleneck, and we've gone much faster now. Or they'll say, it's okay. It wasn't actually that. It was something else over here. Coordinate, trust, and verify. So this trust and verify is actually a Russian saying, right? Trust but verify. And then it kind of got adopted by Adrian Cockcroft, adopted it into Netflix as his model for his senior engineers. He says, trust and verify. I love that phrase. So trust and verify is this. You're an adult. You're good at this. I trust you, right? Verify isn't, I'm going to check up on you because I don't trust you. It's, I'm going to have a view across all of this that none of you have because you're focusing on the thing you're doing, right? So my job is kind of traffic control, comms, right? Making sure people are aware of what other people are doing. Yeah, so it's that kind of thing. And then ad lib to fade. So we had one of the keynotes was a gig, which I thought was rather cool. There's a phrase from, if you've ever been in a band, ad lib to fade. This is where you've got a song, and it's got a really cool hook, a really cool chorus. You don't really know how to finish it. So what you do is you just keep going around the chorus, and then the sound engineer does this. And it gradually goes quieter and quieter, and then you go, right, okay, we're done. Yeah. You don't really know how to finish. Like the best ad lib to fade ever is I Am the Resurrection by the Stone Roses. Okay, it's got like 2 false endings. It's brilliant. Ad lib to fade is this. We don't know how this is going to finish. We do know that the way this finishes is we're all redundant. Right? All the external folks that I'm bringing in, my little team, we all end up being surplus to requirements because the organization is now completely fine without us. But I don't know how that happens, yeah? Because it's different. So, okay, so then, I'm trying to see what's going on with my timing. I've got no idea what this is telling me. Okay. So this is how we've structured the program. Warning, do not copy this. Okay? So what we've done is we identified, I said, identify the things that you think are slowing you down, or the things that you think are obstacles. We identified 6 areas that we felt we could make changes in, make improvements in, and that would help make us more efficient, more aligned. And so these are, the first one we call Geo People. So Geo People, we've got these 6,000 people, mostly working on the thing they're working on. So okay, they're very siloed, very focused, very working very hard and all that kind of thing. When you build a group of 5,000, 6,000 people practically overnight, they don't have much chance to get to know each other. So that was a thing that needed to happen, right? Was we needed to get them to get to know each other. So Geo People is about 2 things. One is about communities of practice, communities of interest, connecting people up with similar people across the organization so they don't feel lost, so they can, well, for a whole bunch of reasons. One is the very human sense of belonging and sense of community. Another is about alignment, is about if we're going to say what does good look like across Geo, then we need a place that owns what good looks like. So we need these communities of practice. These practices are going to be the curators of good practice, right? That's why they're called practices, the clue's in the name. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean they sit in a smoky room and hand out edicts. That's not how practices work. Practices are the human beings in the organization doing the work, getting together, having ideas, sharing ideas, discussing things, and running experiments and saying, hey, this thing seems to work. Let's institutionalize this. Let's make it easy to learn this. So that's the first part, is practices. The second part is about how you as an individual navigate your career. Okay, so you come into this fast-moving, big, complicated organization. Where do you fit? How do you get onboarded? How do you figure out how you're going to grow your career? How do you move? How do you grow? How do you navigate through the organization? So there's a whole kind of capabilities portfolio piece, right? So my skills, so rather than saying, we have this job role X, and job role X has skills A, B, and C, and so if, and that's your linear path through the organization. No, everyone is an individual human being. And there's a bunch of things you happen to be good at now. There's a bunch of aspirational stuff you want to be good at next. Well, let's figure out how we can help you grow in the way you want to grow in a way that's aligned with where the organization is trying to get to. Okay, if you can bring those things together, you win. So that's the people piece. Creating value is all about flow. okay? So this is about how does work work? How do we take an idea, from idea right through to something deployed, running, making customers happy, making customers successful? How do we make that work? How do we do it in such a way that we can measure it and improve it? How do we do it in such a way that we can identify the bits that are waste, the bits that aren't helping, and do less of those? How do we make it easy for people to figure out what they should be doing and be aligned with the bigger picture? So that's a creating value piece. Engineering excellence, right? So, and this is true of all of these streams. Across Geo, there are pockets of amazing. There's pockets of excellence. As I said, you can't accidentally run a 360 million person platform, right? That requires a very, very high degree of engineering skill. However, that's very unevenly distributed. So there's bits of it that are incredible, bits of it that are not great. So engineering excellence is how do we raise the bar across the organization? How do we make it easy for people to learn good habits and make it kind of institutionally difficult, if you like, to have bad habits, right? So that's that piece. Meeting customer needs. This is all about, so if the top three are about doing the right thing, doing the thing right, meeting customer needs is about doing the right thing. So this is about your kind of your product management, your product research, user research, that kind of stuff. So this is, are we building the right products? Do we understand our customers? Are we meeting their needs in an appropriate way? Then we have designing future Geo. So this is the org design piece. So right now, the design of Geo is a bit chaotic because it's gone from urgent thing to urgent thing. Okay, necessarily. Now it's kind of, take a moment. What shape should we be to meet our aspirations for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Okay, what shape do we need to be to do that? Well, then there's an org design piece. How do we grow into that? Okay, so let's be deliberate about that and what are the roles involved in that, what's the structures involved in that. And the last piece we call reinventing leadership. You'll notice the names of all of these, okay, the names of all of these are goal-oriented. The point of the creating value stream is to create value. The point of the reinventing leadership stream is to reinvent leadership. We could call creating value ways of working. I've seen it called ways of working. It's not very exciting, is it? I'm working on ways of working. That sounds great. You know, I'm doing the engineering center of excellence. Okay. You know, do product stuff. Oh, you're part of the product stuff team. Nice. Right? Now, these are exciting. I'm meeting customer needs. What are you doing? I'm helping us as an organization become good at meeting customer needs. So reinventing leadership then, as a large, fast-moving Indian organization, what we have is an organization that has a lot of people who are very, very good at being supervisors. They're very good at getting work done. They're very good at allocating work, measuring work, monitoring work, getting it back from people, and that kind of delivery mindset, which is great, but doesn't really scale. Okay, it's not really sustainable. So what we want to do is flip that delivery, that supervisor mindset into much more of a servant leader and leader mindset. We want to create from the theory Y to theory X theory X to theory Y kind of school, if that's your vocabulary. So reinventing leadership is about taking the folks that are in Geo, and there's some pretty smart people there, right? One thing they're very good at is hiring, and giving them new leadership habits. And once they have those new leadership habits, we will start to see other things emerge. And then, so these are our 6 streams, and then there's a 7th kind of stream, if you like, that ties them all together. This is the rug that holds it all together, called program success. And this is about making sure, because these are clearly very interrelated. You can't do any of these successfully without a bunch of the others, okay? So this is about making sure that whole thing ties together. So that's a static model, so what? Well, so we've got human beings in it. And what we've done is, with each of these streams, we have a pair of people. We have what we call an external lead and an internal lead. So the external lead is someone who comes in from the outside who is maybe a specialist in that area. And the internal lead is someone in Geo who's someone fairly typically senior in Geo who really cares about this thing. And the idea is those two people pair on making that stream a success. Okay, that's the job. And again, the idea is over time, the internal lead becomes able enough, capable enough, that then the external lead can step away, and now it becomes a Geo-only thing. We also have a executive sponsor for each stream, and this is typically someone at a very senior level in the organization who's good at getting stuff done. So we've got the people whose day job it is to run the streams. There's also a piece about, can you make sure this person arrives at this meeting, because we need to talk to them. And so you need people in a large, complicated organization, you need people who can push doors open for you. So I present this to Mukesh Ambani, and he says, I really like this, but there's a piece missing. And I said, what? And he said, I want there to be some kind of shadow. For each stream, I want there to be a junior kind of future leader, someone we've got our eye on, who's going to come in, shadow those two stream leads, and grow into that role. We're going to kind of accelerate. I thought, that's a really good idea. We'll have that. So we got that. So do not copy this model. Actually do copy it. Right? Actually do copy it. Don't copy this. Right? Unless you have exactly the same set of 6 constraints in your organization, and I bet you don't. Right? Spoiler, you don't. Okay? You certainly don't have one called Geo People. What you have in your organization is a bunch of things that might be slowing you down. So please, please, steal the model, steal the thinking behind the model. And this is exactly the same thing that Spotify says about the Spotify model. Don't have tribes and guilds and squads and chapters and all that, because that's a silly thing to do. That's a thing to do if you're a Swedish startup in 2012 growing from 300 people to 3,000 people. If that is your use case, it's a really good solution. For anyone else, don't do that. Right? Go through the thinking they went through to understand what autonomy with alignment means. And in their case, autonomy with alignment means tribes and guilds and squads. In your case, it will mean something different. So please, please steal the thinking there. So that's a static model. How does it work? One of the ways it works is this. Hire the best people you can find. I am hiring the best people I can find. So, for instance, for my Geo People stream, which is communities of practice and career growth, capability growth, I've got Emily Webber. Some of you have come across Emily Webber. She wrote a wonderful book called Building Effective Communities of Practice, because that's what she's been doing for a bunch of time. That's not the only thing she does. It's a thing she happens to be really good at. There are other people who do communities of practice. Emily is the best one I know, and so I hired her, right? She wasn't available when I was first doing this, about a year and a half ago. I said, I need someone like Emily, and I contacted Emily. I said, we've not worked together before, but I know her and I know her work. I said, I'd really like you to come and help with this. And she said, I'm busy right now. And I said, how long for? She said, about a year. I said, I'll wait. I'll wait for someone that good, yeah? So I did, and I said, I can't not progress communities while you're doing this. So what I need to do is I'll make a bunch of decisions which are going to be dumb because I'm not you. So you'll need to coach me. So during that time, before we actually got her in the team, she was coaching me. So she was kind of informally coaching me and helping me not make stupid decisions. Okay. Establish regular, frequent communications. So this is, we're just over-communicating everything, right? So what are we doing here now? We're saying upwards, so to Mukesh Ambani, the exec team, all those sorts of folks. Sideways to our peers in the organization, downwards, lots and lots of internal communications. I need to speed up a lot because I just realized I'm nearly out of time and I'm just getting started. So, unpublished program OKRs. So what does this mean? Program OKRs is we treat the program like a delivery program, but it's the thing we're delivering is the new organization. And so we publish OKRs to set true north, to keep ourselves honest, okay, hold ourselves accountable, and so people get excited. Okay, so it looks a bit like this. It looks a bit like we've got all of these streams. They all have initiatives. There's a bunch of things that people in those streams would like to do. And then quarter on quarter, we say, what's the current priorities lens? What's the current thing that we care about? What are we going after? Are we going after efficiency? Are we going after increasing revenue? Are we going after customer feedback? Are we going after, what's the thing that matters this quarter? Or this set of quarters? And therefore, what work should we set up in order to meet those needs, okay? So briefly then, I've been in this, and this is ongoing. This is an ongoing gig. I'm learning and frustratingly relearning a bunch of things I probably should know better. So things I'm learning. The first thing, someone said to me, you're building an organization within an organization. So the team I'm building that runs this program is itself a mini organization. It's really obvious when you say it out loud. I didn't think of that. right? And so that means it has all of that. There's a lot of implications to that statement. So one of the things about our organization, within an organization, is it has an operating model. It has values. It has principles. It has communications. It has OKRs. It has direction. It has leadership. If we're going to implement this in a large organization, we need to model it. We need to live it every day. So we need, as a group of people with each other, to model servant leadership, leader leadership, communications, all of that kind of stuff. And that keeps us honest. Hiring is tough. Most of you here, I'm sure most of you here are in some way involved in hiring, interviewing, whatever else. Hiring is tough. Building a very small, very high-performing team is really hard, right? Mobilizing the team is itself first-class work. I was frustrated at how slow things were moving. And then one of the team said to me, but the fact that you're getting these people into the team is work. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is. So, cut yourself some slack, is what I say. I can wait for the right people. Right, as I said, I waited a year for Emily. Don't settle for second best. Okay, it's tempting. Try and resist it. It's okay to fail upwards. So a couple of my stream leads, I already had folks in to be those stream leads. And what happened is they're accidentally too good, right? What does that mean? That means that I've said I want someone to come in and look at this, do the product management piece, the meeting customer needs piece, and I've found this person. And we chatted about this person, and we said, you know what, actually, there's a much bigger goal for Geo's, a much bigger piece that they could get directly involved in. And we all went, yeah, that's a really good idea. So we're currently in the process of engaging this person, and they're going to be joining the team. And I went, brilliant, that's great. Oh, crap. I still don't have my person to do meeting customer needs. So I failed upwards. I failed by getting someone who's too good for the role, and so now we found them a bigger role, which is great because that's very grown up. That's if you find good people, build a role around them. But it still means that you've got a gap. Speaking truth to power really can work, as I've said, and it is all about making customers successful. As I said, I thought we were making good progress, and we are making good progress, but then when Mukesh Ambani on Wednesday of this week said to me, Dan, love what you're doing, how is that directly making our customers more successful? I was like, yeah, we need to do some slightly different things. So be prepared to be challenged. Where next then? Onwards and upwards. I'm just having so much fun. I cannot begin to tell you how much fun I'm having. It does feel like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Can you come in and help me get a billion Indians onto a connectivity mesh? And that's just the start of the journey. And you're like, oh, goodness, this is completely insane. It's a petri dish, right? We're trying loads of things. And the answer to most of the questions, like can we do X or how do we do X, is we don't know, right? Because never in history has anyone from a standing start spun up a 6,000-person startup in 5 minutes, right? Providing 4G state-of-the-art connectivity to a third of a billion Indians. It hasn't been done before. So we can't just go and copy what Spotify did, right? Because the Spotify model was designed to take a company from 300 people to 3,000 people. These folks are starting at 6,000. That already, guess what, isn't going to work. We need to do other stuff. And I've said to them, you're going to have to invent your way out of this. And they went, okay. I'm still pinching myself 18 months in. It's still completely insane. The team's growing, momentum's growing. It's really exciting. Hopefully I'll be back here next year or sometime after to tell you the next chapter. And the scope seems to be growing. Every time I have a meeting, every time we get into a room with this chap, it's, you know that thing you're doing? Yes, well, now this is what we're going to do. I'm like, So I'm, yeah, it's a lot of fun. But the reason I wanted to share this with you is swarming, scaling without a religious methodology, is the only way I can see this working, right? It has to be adaptive. It has to be sense and respond, right? There is no laundry list. There is no recipe for doing this. There's a bunch of principles, and those principles are evolving and adapting and emerging as we go along. Something I learned after I've been there about a year is I'm not the first go they've had at this. They'd already had, and I won't name names, but they'd already had some large, well-known consultancies in to try to do the thing that I'm trying to do. And it hadn't worked. And they'd said, look, thanks a lot for trying, but you should go now. They did try SAFE. That didn't work because reasons, okay? Again, that's probably a whole other talk. But basically, they came in and they did their thing and they said, this is how we're going to work. And 5,000 Indians went, no, that's not how we're going to work. This is how we're going to work. And they went, oh, we haven't got anything for that. And they left. So, yeah, swarming is the only way I can imagine this working. So, with that, I'm going to finish by again wishing you happy 10th birthday. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for lasting to the end of 2 long days, 2 long intense days, and also giving me your Saturday afternoon. So, thank you very much.